Do you ever feel like no matter how hard you work, your money just disappears? Like you're pouring energy into your job, sacrificing time with your family, skipping the little indulgences, and still, you look at your bank account and think, this isn't what I thought being an adult would feel like. You're not alone. A lot of us, especially in our late 20s, 30s, and even 40s, are walking around with this quiet frustration. We followed the script, got the degree, landed the job, paid the bills, maybe started a family, tried to be responsible, and yet somehow it still feels like we're on a treadmill going nowhere. We work for money, but money isn't really doing much for us. And here's the hard part. We blame ourselves. We say things like, I should have invested sooner, or I'm just not good with money, or I guess this is just how life is now. But what if the real issue isn't that we're bad with money, but that no one ever taught us how to make money work for us? In this video, I want to have a real conversation. No financial jargon, no unrealistic, just buy real estate advice. Just 5 mindset shifts and actions that help me stop living for the next paycheck and start feeling like I had some control again. Even on a modest income, even with student loans, even with 2 kids, rising rent, and a cart full of groceries that somehow costs $150 every single week. Let's start here. When I was in my early 30s, I hit a wall. I was working full-time, commuting an hour each way, raising a toddler, and trying not to drown in guilt every time I spent money on anything that wasn't strictly necessary. I remember one night standing in the kitchen, staring into the fridge, thinking, how am I working this hard and still feel broke? That moment stuck with me, and it led to the first truth I had to accept. You don't get rewarded just for working hard. You get rewarded for what your money does when you're not looking. See, we're taught to focus on earning. Go to school to earn more, negotiate your salary, pick up a side hustle. And that's not wrong. But if all your energy is going into getting money and none of it into what that money does, it's like filling a leaky bucket. It doesn't matter how much water you pour in, it's going to drain out just the same. The turning point for me wasn't some dramatic windfall. It was a quiet decision. From now on, every single paycheck I get, something goes to work for me. That meant automatically transferring $25 to a savings account, even if I wasn't sure I could afford it that week. That meant setting up a retirement contribution, even if it felt laughable at first. That meant cutting 1 or 2 nice but not necessary expenses, not to punish myself, but to free up cash to grow elsewhere. And let me be honest, it didn't feel magical. It felt awkward, small. I didn't suddenly wake up feeling like a rich person. But over time, something shifted. I stopped being scared of money. I started seeing it as something I could have a relationship with, one that served me, not controlled me. Here's something else I learned, kind of the hard way. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will decide for you. Most of us don't think we have a plan for our money, and that's exactly the problem. Because when there's no plan, we drift. We spend out of exhaustion. We swipe out of habit. We justify impulse purchases because I deserve this, and then feel guilty an hour later. Look, I'm not here to shame you for treating yourself. I'm all for celebrating the wins and enjoying your life. But if we're honest, sometimes we're not spending to enjoy. We're spending to cope. Coping with burnout, boredom, loneliness, stress, pressure. The problem is, that kind of spending doesn't actually solve anything. It just postpones the discomfort and drains your potential to build something better. So here's what I started doing, and it made a huge difference. Every month, before any bills were paid, before I opened Amazon, before I even thought about brunch plans, I gave my money a job. Some of it was assigned to essentials. Some of it was assigned to future me, savings, investments, even a car repair fund I prayed I wouldn't need. And some of it was assigned to joy, guilt-free, intentional joy, a meal out, a weekend getaway, a hobby. That simple act, telling my money where to go, gave me something I hadn't felt in years, peace. Because now, when I spent on something fun, I didn't feel guilt. And when I saved, I felt proud, not deprived. And you know what else happened? I stopped checking my bank account with that sinking feeling. You know the one. When you open the app, hold your breath, and just hope there's more than $100 left? Yeah, that went away. Not because I was suddenly wealthy, but because I was in relationship with my money again. I wasn't ignoring it. I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. And that brings me to something really important, especially if you're juggling kids, work stress, aging parents, or just life in general. Making your money work for you isn't about being perfect, it's about being intentional. No one expects you to become a financial guru overnight. You don't need spreadsheets or 10 different bank accounts. What you need is clarity. Clarity about what matters to you. Clarity about what you want your money to do for you, not just today, but a year from now, 5 years from now. For me, that clarity came in little moments, like wanting to take my kid to the science museum without stressing about the ticket price, or finally fixing the leaking faucet instead of pretending it wasn't a problem, or just lying in bed at night and not mentally calculating how much was left in my checking account. That kind of freedom, it starts small, but it starts. And once it does, you start realizing you're not just working to survive anymore. You're building something. You know, one of the biggest lies we're sold, especially in our 30s and 40s, is that financial peace is only for people who earn 6 figures, own real estate, or have some magical head start we missed. But I want to challenge that. Because what I've learned, and what I've watched other people around me learn, is that financial peace isn't about how much you make. It's about how much intention you bring to what you have. And let's be real, life gets complicated in this season. You might be raising kids, supporting aging parents, managing a household, maybe even navigating a career pivot or burnout. Money isn't just math anymore. It's tied to your sense of security, your marriage, your mental load, your dreams that got put on the back burner for someday. So let's talk about that next shift, one that really changed how I thought about finances. Stop treating money like a finish line. Start treating it like a tool. I used to believe that once I hit a certain income or had a certain amount in savings, then I'd feel stable, then I'd relax, then I'd feel successful. But every time I got close to that number, I'd move the goalpost. Have you ever done that? You tell yourself, if I can just get to $5,000 in savings, I'll feel secure. Then you get there, and suddenly it's not enough. Because security isn't in the number, it's in the relationship. Once I stopped chasing an imaginary finish line and started asking, what do I actually want my money to help me do? Things changed. I started seeing every dollar not as proof of success or failure, but as a tool I could use. Some tools were for building safety. Some tools were for investing in the future. And yes, some tools were for rest and joy, which I finally stopped feeling bad about. One of my favorite questions now, and I ask it regularly, is, what would enough feel like this month? Not in a Pinterest perfect way, but in a real way. Enough might mean being able to buy groceries without checking your balance mid-trip, or going out with friends and not silently panicking about the bill, or having a little cushion in case your kid outgrows their shoes again. When you start defining enough in emotional, grounded terms, not just arbitrary numbers, your decisions start to shift. You begin to say no to things that don't serve that vision, and you start saying yes to little choices that build the life you actually want. Now let's talk about something that doesn't get mentioned enough when we talk about money, especially for adults juggling a lot of roles. Financial self-care is real, and you need it. We hear about self-care in terms of bubble baths and saying no to things that drain us. But honestly, one of the most radical acts of self-care I ever committed to was opening my bank app without flinching. Just looking, not judging, not spiraling, just seeing where things stood. Because ignoring your money doesn't protect you from stress, it guarantees more of it. It keeps you stuck in that fog of, I don't know what's going on, but I feel behind. And that fog, it's exhausting. When I started practicing financial check-ins, short, honest moments every week or two, it was like turning on the lights in a messy room. Was it still messy? Yep, but now I could see it. And once you can see it, you can clean it, you can sort, you can take action. Sometimes I'd do this on Sunday evenings with a cup of tea and no distractions. I'd pull up my accounts, jot down my balances, and just notice. No shame, no panic, just presence. That presence gave me something I didn't know I needed: compassion. Because here's the truth, so many of us are doing the best we can with what we've got. We're not lazy, we're not reckless, we're just tired, overwhelmed, spinning 100 plates, hoping one doesn't fall. So if no one's told you this before, Let me say it now. You are allowed to slow down and check in. You are allowed to forgive past mistakes. You are allowed to rewrite your money story. That brings me to one more shift that felt deeply personal for me, and I know a lot of you will relate. Let go of financial shame. Seriously, just let it go. We carry so much baggage around money. Debt, late payments, overspending, missed opportunities. We think, if I had just been smarter when I was younger, or if I hadn't made that one big mistake. And you know what? That thinking keeps us stuck, because shame doesn't lead to change. It leads to hiding. And hiding keeps us from learning, growing, or even asking for help. I remember sitting with a friend over coffee. She was in her late 30s, super capable, working full-time, 2 kids. And she said, "I'm too embarrassed to even talk to a financial advisor. I feel like they'll judge me." And I looked at her and said, "You're not broken. You're just overwhelmed. That's not a flaw. That's a flag, a signal that it's time for support." We all hit those moments where we realize we've been surviving, not thriving. And the bravest thing you can do isn't to pretend you've got it all together. It's to say, "I'm ready for a different relationship with money." You can start small, you can start messy. You just have to start. Because once you do, once you choose to engage with your money like it's a partner, not a problem, things begin to shift. Not overnight, but steadily, quietly, powerfully. Like feeling confident at the checkout line. Like knowing an unexpected bill won't derail your entire month. Like choosing something because it brings joy, not because you're trying to fill a hole. That's what I mean when I say making your money work for you. It's not a destination, it's a relationship. And like any good relationship, it gets better the more love, care, and attention you give it. You know, one thing I've realized over the years, and maybe you felt this too, is that making peace with money is about so much more than dollars and cents. It's about reclaiming your sense of agency. It's about getting back into the driver's seat, even if the road's been bumpy. Especially if the road's been bumpy. And if you're listening to this right now thinking, okay, I want to do this, I want to shift, but it just feels heavy. That's okay. That makes sense. We've been conditioned to think money is stressful, complicated, even shameful. But what if, just for a moment, you could start treating your money like a relationship you're rebuilding? Not perfectly, not all at once, but with curiosity, with patience, with care. One of the most powerful changes I made in my own life came down to this simple mindset. Money doesn't fix everything, but it gives you choices, and choices change everything. When you have even a little financial breathing room, things that once felt out of reach start to feel possible again. You can take a break from a toxic job. You can pay for therapy. You can invest in your health or your relationship or your side project that lights you up inside. You can finally give yourself the grace to breathe, really breathe, without the constant hum of financial stress in the background. I remember a moment that really hit me. It wasn't a huge milestone. It wasn't buying a house or reaching some magical savings number. It was a Tuesday. My son was sick. I needed to stay home. And for the first time in years, I didn't panic about missing a day of work. I didn't have to scramble or apologize to 5 different people or worry about whether the electric bill would still get paid. I just stayed home, made soup, watched cartoons with him. And I thought, this is the kind of wealth I want. The kind that gives you time, presence, and peace. And it made me realize something even deeper. When your money starts working for you, your life starts expanding in ways you didn't expect. Not just financially, emotionally, relationally, spiritually. You start dreaming again. You start sleeping better. You start showing up in your relationships with more generosity because you're not stuck in survival mode. And maybe the most unexpected thing of all? You start redefining what success actually means to you. Because here's the truth. Success isn't the car or the watch or the vacation photos on Instagram. Success is feeling aligned. Success is being able to say yes to the things that matter and no to the things that don't. Success is living a life that doesn't cost your peace. I want to pause here and just say, if you've been feeling like it's too late, or like you've made too many financial mistakes, or that you'll never catch up, I want you to know, you are not behind. You are exactly where your next chapter begins. There is no rulebook that says financial clarity only belongs to people who started in their 20s, or who don't have kids, or who've never had debt. You're not disqualified from change because your past didn't look perfect. And if you've been quietly carrying the burden of doing all the things, being the responsible one, the provider, the planner, the caregiver, then let this be your reminder. You deserve ease too. You don't have to earn your way to rest. You're allowed to build a life that supports you, not just everyone else. One of the most empowering things I ever did was to start asking myself a different question. Not can I afford this, but is this helping me build the life I want? Sometimes that answer led me to save. Sometimes it led me to spend on things that truly mattered. But every time, it led me to act with intention. And that's where the power is. Because when your money choices are aligned with your values, your real values, not just what you think you should care about, that's when things begin to shift. Not just your finances, your entire life. You'll find that the numbers start making more sense, that the guilt starts easing, that you're no longer trying to chase a version of success someone else defined for you. You're creating your own, rooted in peace, presence, and possibility. So if you've listened this far, I want to say thank you, not just for being here, but for choosing to engage, for choosing to be intentional, for choosing to believe that your story isn't over, it's evolving, right here, right now. And if any part of this spoke to you, I'd really love to hear about it. What's one area of your money life you want to shift this year? Drop it in the comments, not just to share, but to name it, to put that intention out into the world. And hey, if this video gave you something to think about, or maybe just made you feel a little less alone, consider liking it or subscribing. That helps me keep making content like this for real people, navigating real life. But more importantly, I hope you walk away today with this reminder in your heart. You are not stuck, you are not behind, and you are not alone. Every small step you take, every choice, every act of awareness, every time you decide this time, I'll handle my money differently, it counts. It matters. You're not just managing your money, you're building a life, and you're doing it with intention, with courage, and with heart. So keep going. You've got this, and I'm cheering you on every step of the way.